Hi, Phanessa here. In this video, I am going to demonstrate how to crochet the Lily Slouch Beanie. So this is basically a remake of one of my first patterns. So this is really old, but I wanted to provide a video, and I sort of changed the brim here. So in this tutorial, in the update, I'm going to be working single crochet stitches for the brim. In the original pattern, I used half double crochets, and you can still do that. I will show you how to work the setup round if you choose to work the half double crochets, because they are different. Also, I changed up a little bit of the decrease on the top, so there's more of the same texture and stitch instead of just working single crochets. And it is about 11 inches tall. So most of my slouch beanies are between 11 to 12 inches. That's just how I like my slouch. If you want it more slouchy, you can of course make it a little bit longer. And I will talk about what you need to do if you want it even bigger on top. Okay, so for the materials, I'm going to be using this yarn here. It's from Hobbii. One of these balls have 164 yards, so I might be needing 2 of them. I'm not sure yet. The recommendation for hook size is 5 or 6 millimeters, so 5 to 6 millimeters. So I'm going to be using 5 for the brim, and then I'm going to use 6 for the body. So you will need 2 different sizes. If your yarn label recommends 5.5 USI, then you can use that for the body. You just want the brim a little bit tighter than the body. Okay, so these are the 2 sizes I will be using. You'll need a tape measure, scissors, tapestry needle, and a stitch marker if you need to mark the beginning of your round. All right, let's get started. We're going to start at the brim. You want to grab the smaller hook size. For me, that is the 5 millimeters. So start with a slip knot, hold the tail, wrap the working yarn around your fingers over the tail, grab your hook and insert it through the loop and pick up the working yarn. So we're going to start with the brim, and this is going to be worked flat back and forth in rows. I'm going to chain 10. You can chain as many number of chain stitches as you want for the width of the brim. So this is how wide your brim will be. 7. Okay. Into the second chain from the hook, here's the first, there's the second. So 1 single crochet, turning it slightly so that you work into the back humps of the stitch. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and yarn over, pull through 2. So 1 single crochet. So you want to work 1 single crochet in every chain stitch back to over here. Since I chained 10 and we start on the second chain from the hook, I will have 9 single crochet stitches. So if you chained 12, you'll have 11. If you chained 8, you'll have 7, and so forth. And I am working through the back side, the spine of the chain stitches. You don't have to do that. It's just a personal preference. Last 2 stitches. Okay, row 2 is going to be your repeat row, chain 1 and turn. The chain 1 does not count as a stitch. We're going to be working through the back loops. So this is going through 2 loops. The front loop is right there. And then this is the back loop here. That's where we're going to work. So the loop you see right next to your hook is going to be your chain 1. So just skip that one. And then into the first stitch, which is here, into the back loop, we're going to work a single crochet. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. Into the next stitch, just through the back loop, work another single crochet. So you're going to work 1 single crochet into the back loop of every stitch. And if you need to count your stitches, you should still have the same single crochet stitch count. I should have 9. 7, 8, 9. So I have 9. Now we're just going to repeat until we have the length of our brim. Chain 1 and turn. 1 single crochet into every back loop. You want to repeat and then end on the same side as your beginning tail, which is going to be an odd number of rows. So this is my beginning tail. You'll end on this side. I could have gone with a smaller hook size, maybe a 4.5. Okay, so I have 53 rows. I ended on the same side as the beginning tail. And I put this around my head and stretched it a little bit, and it fits properly. So I'm stopping here. So now we're going to join the 2 short ends. You want to bring the foundation end up to the last row. So make sure it's not twisted. We're going to go into the very first stitch, and then the back loops on the back side on this back piece, and then work a slip stitch into the next stitch, and then over here make sure you go through the back loop and work a slip stitch. If you didn't go through the spine in the foundation, your stitches won't look like this. It'll just have 1 loop, but just go ahead and work into that 1 loop. So you're just going to repeat that across, joining the 2. It's the back side that you want to make sure you work through the back loop. Last 2 stitches. So this is going to be the wrong side. So when you turn it around, flip it, this is your seam right there. So now we're going to switch on over to the larger hook size. For me, that's the 6 millimeters. We're going to start the setup round. So we want to work single crochets around the brim to start the body. Okay, so we're going to crochet that way. And you want to make sure you have an even number of stitches. So each row is going to be where you place your single crochet stitches. So I had 53 rows. I'm going to have 53 single crochet stitches. So somewhere in there I'm going to put an extra stitch so that I can have an even number of stitches. If you want the body a little bit more slouchy, you can add more stitches. Just make sure that it's evenly distributed around the brim. Okay, chain 1 into the same stitch, work 1 single crochet. So we're just going to go right here because you don't really have a stitch to go into because you're working on the edge of these stitches here. Okay, so 1 single crochet, and if you need, mark your first stitch. I'm so proud that I actually remembered. I always forget when I do these videos because I don't use a stitch marker. Okay, so now we're going to go into this sort of ridge here. If you follow the stitches up, they look like little V stitches. So right here at the top, we're going to go through the top one and work a single crochet. Now in between these 2 ridges is the next row. We're just going to work through, make sure you work through 2 loops. It just eliminates the look of the large gaps and holes. Here we are, back on the ridge. So I'm going to find the top one right there, go right into that top stitch and work a single crochet. So in between here, you see this like single light stitch here, and then this one is a little bit thicker because it sort of has 2 loops there. Try to go through the one with the 2 loops. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat that all the way around, and when I'm at the end I want to make sure that I add 1 additional stitch so that I have an even number of stitches. Okay, I'm back around and I counted my stitches to make sure that I have an even number of stitches. So I've marked my first stitch right there. I'm going to join with a slip stitch to that first stitch. So right into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, and through the loop on your hook. All right, round one, we're going to chain one, and then into the same stitch where I chained one and joined, I'm going to work one single crochet and a double crochet cluster. So right into the first stitch, same one as where you chained, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two. Now into the same stitch, we're going to work a double crochet cluster. So you're going to yarn over into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. You're going to yarn over and pull through just a two. And then you're going to do that again, yarn over into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through two. Okay, now you're going to yarn over and pull through all three. So now we're going to skip the next stitch and then repeat with one single crochet and a double crochet cluster. So skip one into the next, one single crochet and a double crochet cluster. So yarn over into the same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two. Again, yarn over into the same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through two. Now you want to yarn over and pull through all three. Okay, if you need me to go over that again, I'll do it one more time. Skip into the next stitch, one single crochet, and then a double crochet cluster into the same stitch. So yarn over into the same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two. Again, yarn over into the same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through two. Now you want to yarn over and pull through all three. So I'm going to repeat that all the way around, skipping one and working a cluster in the next. So when I say cluster, I'm referring to the single crochet and the double crochet cluster. So each one of these is what I'm referring to when I say cluster. When you get to the end, you're going to join to the first single crochet. So I'm going to join to the first single crochet. So I forgot to mark this, but this is your very first stitch here. This is the single crochet from the first cluster. Here's the single crochet and there is the double crochet cluster. So you're going to join to the single crochet. So into the single crochet, work your slip stitch. Okay, from here on out, we're going to go back and forth. So we're turning at the beginning of each round. Chain one and turn. So if you take a look at these stitches, you can see the double crochet cluster here, and then this larger hole is the single crochet. We're going to be working into the single crochet. So the first single crochet is just going to be the same one that we slip stitched into. So you're going to work one cluster in there. So that's one single crochet and one double crochet cluster. And if you need to mark your stitches, mark the first single crochet from the cluster, which is going to be right down here. Okay, so now we're going to work this cluster stitch in every single crochet stitch. So right here, and you'll be able to see it because it's the larger hole. So insert, work your cluster, single crochet first, and then the double crochet cluster. Okay, into the next single crochet here, work your clusters or cluster. So you just do that all the way around, and then we'll join to the first single crochet again. Okay, I am back at the beginning. I have one more cluster stitch to work. There's my single crochet and my double crochet cluster. Okay, I'm going to join to the single crochet. Now you just repeat round 3. So you're going to repeat until it's about an inch past the ear to crown measurement. That'll give you a little bit of a slouch. If you want more, you can keep going more. You'll be measuring from the bottom of the brim up, so you can adjust depending on how slouchy you want it. Okay, I'll start you off. Chain 1, turn into the same single crochet, work your cluster of 1 single crochet and 1 double crochet cluster. Place your marker on your single crochet. For me, because these stitches are taller, I feel like a stitch marker isn't really necessary, but if you need it, place it on the single crochet. Don't forget to turn your work every time you start a new round. So into the next single crochet, I'm going to work my cluster and then continue on. So go ahead and repeat round 3. Okay, so I'm not quite ready yet, but I'm running out of yarn. So I will show you how to attach new yarn 2 different ways. So the first way is I've got my single crochet. I'm going to work my double cluster. So right here is where I would yarn over and pull through all of those 3 loops. I'm going to grab the new yarn and place it on my hook, and then I'm going to pull through there. Okay, so typically when I do it this way, I tie the 2 ends together and just make sure that it's secure. The other method is the invisible joint, and I prefer this method because then I don't have to weave in any ends. Okay, so this is the new yarn. This one is from my work here. I'm going to tie this end here and then tie this end here, okay? Or you can do it in whichever order you want. You just want to tie a knot. Okay. Now we're going to take this end and tie a knot on this side. Okay. So now we've got our knots. We're going to pull both sides until they meet, and there's a tiny knot. So if you don't like knots, then I don't recommend this method. I mean, it's a small knot, and because my work is very textured, I don't mind too much. So there's my knot, and I'm just going to continue on with my work. I measured this, and right now it's at about 8 3/4, which is the exact height for the ear to crown measurement, but I'm going to go a little bit higher before I start decreasing. So there's my knot, it's in the back. So I'll go ahead and continue. So you want to repeat until it measures about 1 inch past the crown to ear or ear to crown measurement. The pattern will have the chart. Let's see, this one is about 9 3/4 or 9 1/2, and that's good for me because the ear to crown measurement is about 8 1/2. So now we're ready for the decrease round. So I am going to chain 1 and turn just like before. So into the first single crochet, we're going to do the same thing, work our cluster. So the single crochet and the double crochet cluster into the same stitch. Okay, so we're going to decrease by working 1 single crochet into the next single crochet, and then instead of working the double crochet cluster, we're going to work the double crochet cluster in the next single crochet right here. Okay, so remember how to do that. Yarn over. We're not going into the same single crochet like we've been doing. We're going to the next one, and then we're working that double crochet cluster. Okay, now we're working a normal cluster with the single crochet and the double crochet cluster into the same single crochet stitch. In the original version of this beanie, I just did a quick decrease of 3 rounds using single crochets, but I wanted to sort of incorporate the actual stitch pattern when I decrease. So hopefully this looks better. Okay, so into the next single crochet, 1 single crochet. Into the next single crochet, it's going to be the double crochet cluster. Just a double crochet cluster, not the normal one. So just the double crochet cluster. And the next one will be the single crochet and the double crochet cluster. So single crochet and double crochet cluster. So your normal cluster. There we go. Next stitch. So we never work into the cluster here. So next single crochet, work 1 single crochet. Next single crochet, work your double crochet cluster. Next stitch, a normal cluster. Okay, so I'm near the end. Again, I forgot to mark my stitches. Okay, so this is the first single crochet. I'm almost there. I have 2 more single crochets to go into. I just worked a normal cluster, so I'm going to work 1 single crochet here and a double crochet cluster. If you happen to have an odd number left, then you will just end with a normal cluster with both the single crochet and the double crochet cluster into 1 stitch. So I'm going to slip stitch to the first single crochet here. So you can see it's starting to curve in. So now I'm going to work round 2 of decrease, chain 1 and turn. Into the same stitch, the single crochet here, just like before, work your single crochet. So I forgot to mark this again, but this one is going to be harder to see than the others. So place a marker on the first single crochet stitch. Okay. And now we're going to jump over here to this single crochet here and work our double crochet cluster. So this time we're just alternating the single crochet and the double crochet cluster into each single crochet stitch. So there's the double crochet cluster. Into this next single crochet, work 1 single crochet. Into the next single crochet, work a double crochet cluster. So just alternate all the way around. You may end with a single crochet, or you may end with a cluster, double crochet cluster. So just depends on how many stitches you have. Okay, so here's my marker. I have 1 more single crochet left. So just look for the single crochet stitches. And I'm working my double crochet cluster. So join to the first single crochet with a slip stitch. So for this one, we just worked basically all decrease stitches, and you can see that it's getting a lot smaller. So round 3, I'm just going to work single crochets now. So I'm going to work 1 round of single crochets in every stitch. I'm telling you, I'm really bad at placing a stitch marker on my first stitch. Okay, so this is my first stitch here. So I'm going to go right into the first stitch and work a single crochet. This time I'm going to mark it. So you're going to work 4 single crochets and then a single crochet 2 together. So that's 1 into the next, 2, 3, and 4. To work a single crochet 2 together, you're going to work over 2 stitches, insert your hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop. Okay, yarn over, pull through all 3. 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the decrease. Insert your hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop, into the next stitch, pull up another loop. Yarn over, pull through all 3, and I just have a few more stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have a perfect amount of stitches. I have 2 stitches left. I'm going to work my decrease. If you have 1, just work a single crochet. It's not going to make a huge difference when it's scrunched up like this. So now I'm just going to join it with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Fasten off, yarn over, and pull through. Make sure you leave a tail so that you can close up the top, okay, because we do still have a little hole. So grab your tapestry needle, and you want to weave this through these stitches on top. Okay, so I'm just going to go back and forth. So that direction, this direction, and then just go back and forth. I'm just going to make it easier and do this. Okay, so you just pull it till it's tight, and then you want to weave in your ends on the inside. So I'm going to secure this, make sure it's tug it and close. Don't tug too hard if you have yarn that can break. I'm just going to insert my needle, wrap my needle a couple of times, and then that'll tighten it. And then you can weave in your ends through your work. Just weave it in. Don't forget your beginning tail. All right, once you're done, you can add a pom-pom. I do have a couple of videos on making a yarn pom and a fur pom. I'll go ahead and link that. It's also linked in the pattern if you have the PDF copy. I think it should be in the blog as well. Okay, all right. I'm actually a lot happier with this. I guess I could have gradually decreased that a little bit as well. If you wanted to, you could work one round of just normal clusters instead of decreasing between the first and second decreases. But because it's a slouch, it's not going to bother me too much. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification button. You'll be notified every time I post a video. I'll see you next time.